Have you ever felt like you're running out of time, even when nothing around you seems urgent? Not the kind of pressure you can explain, not stress you can point to on a calendar, but a quiet, persistent tension beneath everything you do. A sense that you're late for something important, even though no one ever told you what it is. You wake up, move through familiar routines, check your phone, make plans, cross things off lists, and yet there's a subtle unease following you, like reality itself is slightly out of sync, as if the world is operating on rules you were never taught, and somehow you're expected to keep up. Most people learn to ignore that feeling. They label it anxiety. They call it burnout. They convince themselves it's just how adulthood works. But what if it isn't psychological at all? What if it isn't a personal flaw, a lack of motivation, or a mindset issue? What if the sensation you've been carrying is actually a signal one almost no one talks about pointing to a hidden reality beneath the surface of everyday life? Because here's what rarely gets said out loud. Millions of people feel the same urgency, the same sense of delay, the same quiet pressure, and yet society insists everything is normal. The clock keeps ticking. Deadlines stack up. The future always feels slightly ahead of you, just out of reach. And without realizing it, your subconscious mind adapts to a rhythm that was never truly human. A rhythm designed for efficiency, productivity, and comparison, not awareness. Quantum consciousness offers a very different lens. In the quantum field, time is not the solid, linear force we were taught to obey. At the deepest levels of existence, time behaves less like a law and more like a perception. And when your awareness begins to sense that mismatch between what you feel internally and what the world tells you is real, you experience it as restlessness, urgency, or the feeling that something is wrong with reality itself. This is often how a spiritual awakening actually begins, not with peace, not with clarity, but with friction. A subtle resistance between your inner frequency and the external structure of the world. Your vibration starts to shift, and suddenly the explanations that used to work no longer satisfy you. You try to fix your life, optimize your schedule, manage your thoughts, but the pressure doesn't disappear. That's because the root of it isn't in your conscious choices. It lives deeper in the subconscious programming around time, identity, and survival that was installed long before you ever questioned it. Very few people realize that the modern understanding of time is a construct one that shapes fear, self-worth, and behavior at a collective level. Once that construct is internalized, it quietly dictates how you experience reality. The hidden reality is that your consciousness is far more expansive than the timeline you've been given. And when that expansion begins, the old system starts to feel restrictive, even suffocating. Have you noticed how often you feel like you should be further along by now? Like there's an invisible benchmark you haven't reached yet? That feeling doesn't come from failure. It comes from misalignment. Your frequency is no longer synchronized with a model of reality built on urgency, scarcity, and linear progress. On a deeper level, something within you is waking up and recognizing that time, as you've known it, may be an illusion. That's why this pressure feels personal, even though it isn't. Why it feels isolating, even though countless others feel it too. And why, if you're hearing this now, something resonates beyond logic, as if a deeper part of you has been waiting for this conversation. So stay with me, not because this is abstract or philosophical, but because this is about you, about the quiet signals your consciousness has been sending, about the moment you started sensing that something in reality doesn't quite add up. What comes next will begin to expose where this pressure really comes from. And once you see the pattern forming, you'll realize why this video found you now. Because the pressure you feel didn't begin inside you. It was taught, repeated, normalized, and absorbed long before you had the awareness to question it. Time was presented as linear, absolute, and scarce, like a countdown constantly running in the background of your life. Past behind you, future ahead of you, and a narrow present where everything meaningful is supposed to happen before it's too late. That model didn't just organize schedules. It shaped perception. It trained the subconscious mind to associate time with fear, urgency, comparison, and self-judgment. From an early age, you learn to measure yourself against invisible timelines. where you should be by now, how fast you should progress, what success is supposed to look like at each stage. Slowly, the perception of time became a psychological force, not a neutral dimension. And when time is experienced as something you're always losing, reality itself begins to feel hostile. The anxiety, the sense of being behind, the quiet guilt that never fully leaves, these are not personal failures. They are symptoms of subconscious programming. In the hidden reality beneath appearances, consciousness doesn't experience time the way society does. The quantum field doesn't rush. Energy doesn't compete. Frequency doesn't compare itself to another frequency. But when human awareness is forced into a linear narrative, perception collapses into pressure. Time becomes a tool of control, not through force, but through belief. When enough people accept the same model, it feels natural, inevitable, unquestionable. As your vibration begins to change, cracks appear in that model. You start sensing that reality is not linear in the way you are taught. Moments feel stretched or compressed. Meaning matters more than speed. Presence feels more real than progress. This is where relief quietly enters, even before understanding does. Because something inside you recognizes the truth. You are never broken. You are responding intelligently to a distorted structure. And this is only the first fracture in the story of time you inherited. Science has already begun to notice these inconsistencies, to question whether time is as fundamental as it appears, not as a belief, not as philosophy, but as observation. What's coming next doesn't erase the world you know, but it begins to explain why it never fully made sense in the first place. Because as unsettling as this feels, you're not imagining it, and you're not alone in sensing it. For decades, modern physics has been quietly questioning the very thing most of us are taught never to doubt. In quantum physics and time research, time is no longer treated as a simple, solid backdrop where reality unfolds. In fact, some of the most advanced models suggest that time may not be fundamental at all. Instead, it may emerge from relationships, from information exchange, from observation itself, from consciousness interacting with the field. At the quantum level, particles don't carry a built-in timeline. They respond to energy, to interaction, to measurement. This is where the observer effect becomes impossible to ignore. Observation doesn't just reveal reality, it participates in shaping it. When scientists attempt a quantum reality explained without classical assumptions, past, present, and future stop behaving like fixed points. They blur, they overlap. They behave more like probabilities than destinations, connected by perception rather than sequence. This doesn't mean science has all the answers, and that matters. Modern physics approaches this carefully, using language of indications, tendencies, and emerging frameworks, not absolute claims. That restraint keeps the conversation grounded, but it also keeps the mystery alive. What's important for you is this: if time is an emergent property, then your experience of pressure, urgency, or stagnation is deeply linked to how your subconscious mind interprets reality. Perception of time becomes a reflection of frequency, of energetic coherence, of how consciousness interfaces with the quantum field. As awareness expands, time often feels unstable. Moments stretch or collapse. Insight accelerates. Old patterns lose authority. This is why a spiritual awakening rarely feels peaceful at first. It feels disorienting, even unsettling, as perception outgrows the structure it was confined within. And if this is resonating, it's not random. This is where the science stops being distant and starts getting personal. Stay with this. Let your curiosity remain open. If this perspective is shifting something inside you, be part of the exchange here. This channel exists to explore these cracks in reality together. What comes next moves directly into your lived experience, and it's where everything we've talked about begins to touch your life in ways you may already recognize. Because now it stops being abstract and starts echoing inside your own experience. When time is treated as an illusion, its effects don't remain theoretical. They surface as anxiety that appears without a clear cause, guilt that lingers even when you've done nothing wrong, an emotional weight that feels older than memory itself. Trauma doesn't live neatly in the past, the way we were taught. In the quantum field, information is never erased. Experiences are recorded as energy, stored as frequency, and accessed through perception. That's why your subconscious mind can react to something over as if it's happening right now. You've felt this in moments when time seemed to bend, when a memory flooded your body without warning, when déjà vu felt precise, almost intentional, when synchronicities appeared with impossible timing, as if reality was responding to an inner shift. These are not glitches. They are signals, signs that consciousness creates reality through resonance, not chronology. As your vibration changes, your perception widens, and the linear model of reality begins to loosen its grip. This is why a spiritual awakening often feels destabilizing before it feels liberating. You start noticing patterns you can't unsee. Emotions surface without context. Old timelines lose authority. But none of this means something is wrong with you. It means expansion of consciousness is underway. Awareness is learning to operate beyond a narrow frame, and the nervous system is catching up. If this language feels familiar, it's because people like us have always sensed there was more beneath the surface. A hidden reality where meaning matters more than speed and energy matters more than control. This channel exists for that recognition. If you feel seen here, stay connected. Let your voice be part of this exchange. Subscribe not as a click, but as an identity. Share your perspective, engage consciously, and help strengthen a space where awareness grows collectively. What comes next will bring this even closer to your daily life, and it's where everything begins to align. Because as this understanding deepens, something important becomes clear. Time was never meant to be a cage you live inside. It was a model, a way to organize experience, not the source of meaning itself. Beneath the clock, beneath schedules and deadlines, there is consciousness, more fundamental, more responsive, and far more powerful than we were taught to believe. Quantum consciousness does not obey time the way matter appears to. It observes, it resonates, it relates, and reality responds not to the clock on the wall, but to the quality of awareness brought into the moment. In the quantum field, vibration organizes experience. Frequency shapes how events unfold. Energy follows coherence, not urgency. This is why moments of love, fear, insight, or deep presence feel timeless, while years spent disconnected seem to vanish. Your perception is not a passive receiver. It is an active interface. As the subconscious mind loosens its grip on survival-based timelines, a different intelligence begins to guide your life. Not control, but alignment. Not force, but resonance. This is where quantum spirituality stops being abstract and starts feeling intimate. Modern physics suggests that observation matters. Spiritual insight suggests that consciousness is primary. Together, they point toward a source of reality that is not mechanical, but intelligent. Some call it the quantum field. Others call it divine intelligence. Others simply feel it as a presence organizing patterns beneath the surface. The name is less important than the recognition that something vast, ordered, and responsive exists behind appearances, quietly responding to awareness itself. When this recognition settles in, fear begins to lose authority. You stop racing time and start listening to reality. Expansion of consciousness doesn't remove challenge, but it changes how challenge arrives and how it resolves. Life feels less random and more conversational, as if reality is responding when your frequency becomes clear enough to speak. This is not about escaping the world, but about engaging it from a deeper level of perception. And this is not an ending. It's a threshold. Because once you accept that time is not fundamental, a deeper question naturally arises. If time is not the base layer of existence, then what is? What is the true source organizing consciousness, energy, and meaning itself? That question opens the door to something even more profound, and it leads directly into what we'll explore next. Before crossing that line, let this settle. If something here resonated, leave a comment with words that reflect where you are right now. Like, I awaken, I see beyond, or I am expanding. Your voice strengthens this field. A like helps this reach others who feel the same pull, and sharing it with one person can quietly change more than you realize. When you're ready, continue with the next video. God and Quantum Mechanics, the revelation that changes everything.